Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your host, Love to Connect, and I hope y'all didn't think that the conversation was over, because it definitely continued. But we have been having some technical issues, so anytime that stuff like this happens, it really seems like a divine intervention. So, with that being said, I'm not gonna stress. I got some content. I know you guys want to see more. So, if y'all want to see a part two, y'all let me know. But I'm reaching out to the people, so we should have more coming soon. Peace.
Welcome back to another episode of Philosophy of Chillin. I'm your host, Love to Connect, and honestly, I have already done this before, and this is quite irritating to have to record this again, transparently speaking. I just got out of an amazing interview with the designer of and founder of Eye, Electric Eyes Clothing. Um, their their conversation was so amazing. Like, we talked about the theme of pressure, and that is the theme of today, for this particular episode. And we really dissected what it means to truly appreciate the community that pursuing to hold meditation valuable in your life can get you, and the journey that they experienced, understanding the value in recognizing what that community could give to them, versus what they were initially expecting to gain. And it was amazing because we explored how in the world of fashion, one can experience so many different pressures. The pressure of just being able to style a artist when either you've met them before, but maybe on the day of something has gone wrong and a personal issue has occurred, or there has just been a change in plans in the order of who would be going first within the fashion show or what have you. But so many things could add to the level of pressure that one could feel, and dissecting how she or they were able to experience what they know to be true for how they respond to those situations, was intriguing to go down. Unfortunately, that entire interview is not going to be shown, and can never really be replicated in the way that it was had initially, which is why, even though these are episodes and interviews, these are genuine moments and experiences that I have with the guests that join me, because it, there's so much authenticity captured within the way that we speak that, no, we're not even actively, processing everything that's coming out as it is, because of just the genuineness. So you all will be seeing another episode with me and that individual, because there has to be a part two with that type of electricity, you know what I'm saying? And I really would encourage you all to go find their page. Well, not find their page, it'll be attached below. Just because I should have recorded that episode. But anyway, Their Instagram will be attached below so that y'all can, go find them and look at what they're doing, and make sure y'all get connected to the next pieces that they have coming soon. And just know that the next time we have a conversation, it will be super powerful. Whenever that time aligns, there is no telling what type of messages are going to come through from the divine. And honestly, I'm grateful to be able to hold that space and opportunity to even sit down and talk with them. Because at the end of the day, like, I can't take away the value that I received from having that conversation. So, with that being said, we're about to dive into a little preview, synopsis, summary, maybe, of the conversation that I had with the founder of Electric Eyes Clothing. I'm gonna have the Instagram below. Y'all go show them love if you feel inclined to. Now let's move on with the show. Today we sat down and talked about how to get through and the different points of value that we have gained in experiencing different aspects and different environments that can produce pressure. And I kind of want to work backwards in a sense, because one of the questions that they asked me in the end was definitely something that still rings in my mind I'm gonna just say presently. But anyway, they asked me, how would I explain how I experience pressure and how I get through that pressure to someone as if they were a preteen. And for one, I thought that question was so good because it gives you a modification to how you would naturally articulate your situation, in a sense that it's not just coming out how you experience it or how I experience it in this sense, but it gives me an edification to say, okay, this is a lens that I should put on my experience and preview in order to be able to articulate myself more appropriately to that identified individual. And what I said was, have you ever been tasked with giving a presentation and you feel that heart racing feeling in your chest, or you feel some sort of pressure and you know that it's there because it's constant? And imagine yourself moving with that constant feeling of pressure, that constant application. And what I aim to do is try to balance that feeling so it doesn't become overwhelming. Because what I have known to be true is the fact that when I look back at my foundation, I started off with listening to my surrounding. And when I was growing up, I gained like a keen sense of hearing because I was always on alert, trying to make sure, even if I wasn't in the room, I knew what was going on so that I could be able to determine if something was going left or, to prepare if anything wasn't, really smooth. So having that sense of observation and level of hearing, I learned to listen to other people's breathing. And in that breathing, I would hear the pace and changes that people had between when they were upset versus when they weren't. And I would identify it as like, oh, okay, well, not only 2 minutes ago, you wasn't breathing like that. So if you wasn't breathing like that, why don't you just take a little deep breath? Because obviously you can't breathe right now. You need to do that. And as I got older and experienced trying to talk through my emotions and understanding, like, sometimes I would just be, yo, like, I'm trying to talk to you, you ask me questions and I can't breathe, and then like experiencing like trying not to, or even diving into and letting my emotions consume me. I realized that experiencing those things, it showed me that my breathing was not always what it normally would be in those states. And I noticed a difference when I started to intentionally just ask for extra minutes of being able to respond to somebody in between a conversation, even if it's in the moment. And, you know, in a heightened or high pressure situation, I'll sit there and I'll just be like, look, I understand, but I need to walk away. And even if let me say it this way. Being able to ask for those moments to take that breath helps me in dealing with my pressure, because even if I'm dealing with a person that cannot recognize the value in why I'm asking to have certain time to breathe in between answering someone right then and there in that moment, it's if I can't if they can't recognize the value in why I'm saying I can have this conversation, just not right now in this type of environment or situation, or feeling, my apologies, and let me walk away so I can come back and then we can continue and hopefully reach some sort of understanding or resolution. If there is somebody that can't recognize that, then I dare you. I dare. I just hope somebody doesn't think they can hit me from behind, because that's just not gonna be a good day. And I was trying to articulate that I can just walk away and remove myself, even if that person can't recognize why. Because I recognized in myself, internally listening to me, that I need to be able to take those deep breaths before I try to articulate to another person how I'm feeling. Excuse me. Um, so yeah, and then they asked me, okay, well, how can you describe your, at least how I'm interpreting their question, how can you describe your understanding of breath work and how it developed to knowing the value that it brings to you and being able to understand what true meditation to be while also being able to articulate or recognize the practice of the breath work that is incorporated with it. I hope I'm getting this, recalling this appropriately. But essentially, what I was saying was being surrounded by water, just like their example, and not really example, but experience of surfing, just like that experience, excuse me, where in which they described how what helped them recognize ways in which they could be able to get through their feelings of pressure, whether it be trying to get through the mindset of having to create a community or seek a community that is not really reflective in your immediate vicinity, and having the determination and gumption and to take that step in connecting with that community, and even trying to deal with that pressure of walking as an individual and taking a leap individually. They were able to apply the skills that they learned within knowing or learning how to surf or repeatedly going into the ocean to get their repetitions. And they started off, one, having their own sister reach out to them and say, hey, why are you in the ocean when you can't swim, on a surfboard, and so forth and so on? You know what I'm saying? And to be someone that has to understand that it wasn't the fact that they didn't know how to tread, but they had to grow into what it actually meant to tread and trust themselves, and that they had the skill sets. They just needed to know how to effectively apply them, to understand that in that space and environment, they were able to, even through the thoughts of panicking and everything like that, let go and release to where they could be able to surf and swim to shore, because you can't ride your surfboard to shore because it would mess up the board. So learning how to swim and tread to shore with your surfboard and everything else had to be lessons of calmality, because they had to be able to understand that you can't fight that feeling. You have to allow yourself to breathe and flow through it as the water flows around you when you're in it, because you can't fight the water. You can't fight it. So the sooner you're able to grasp the fact that you can't fight it, and you must let go and lean back and, focus on your nose, like I had said in the interview initially, because that's what I do when it comes to understanding the importance of the breath work within meditation and how to articulate it to another individual. It's not the fact of Oh, well, that's the comment they said, calming your mind. It's not the fact of you actually calming your mind. The breath work helps you be able to focus on something else outside of your thoughts because your thoughts are going to keep going. That's how the pressure builds. That's how it can become overwhelming because you go into those thoughts, and then as you're in those thoughts, you're entertaining everything. You're like, oh yeah, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Trust me, I gained it from experience. But what that calming your mind means is you knowing that those thoughts are running because you're a soul at the end of the day. You're here to do things. So your mind is constantly going to be going or expressing and so forth and so on. But essentially, you have to be able to focus on your nose. Your nostrils are going in, your nostrils are going out. You're feeling the breath going in, you're feeling the breath going out. That's your focus. And once you lock in on that, everything else gets into its own motion to have that priority of what you're experiencing by doing that, if that makes sense. And I was trying to articulate that in terms of pressure, that's how I've understood the recognition in the community that has been created within the spirituality and meditation and high energy and high frequency um, individuals that have those beliefs, because I do recognize the value. And unfortunately, there has been a viral brand of that community that has aspects that aren't necessarily always true. Um, but what is something that can be taken away from every individual is that those skill sets are something that are in place to help anybody with the breath of life get through the phases that they go through in life. And what I found to be so intriguing about what they described as ways in which they were able to understand when it was time for them to move forward with their passion. They stated that, of course, life was going at a momentum before COVID. And during COVID, it definitely gave a lot of people time to sit down and really think and process for the individuals that utilize that time to do so. And in that time, they were encouraged, the founder and designer of Electric Eye Clothing, they essentially stated how when they were trying to understand, or before they got back into their passions, and understanding, how that avenue can communicate their passions to, well, through to, the world or the public, they sat back and thought about their childhood and how their mom would give them like this puffer paint. And with this puffer paint, they would design different, art pieces like flowers, or they would write words all over the shirt. And when that memory started triggering, it was like an epiphany to where it opened the window for them to see the importance of what those memories held to be true. And that allowed them to venture into exploring their passion for fashion in their present. And that then led to just a deposit of understanding different concepts and pieces that they would want to develop or should develop that they decided they would be willing to do. And that journey and decision is adventurous, and it is meant to put someone in a position of much gratitude. And when they welcomed those pushes by their understanding of the moments that they experienced, it then start leading them to people that welcomed what they understood to be true for how they digested, how they would get through the pushes of pressures within their life. Because essentially, even whether it be their own experience or the experiences of other persons, you're always going to have the people that are like, well, why do you pay attention to this? Or you talk about spirituality, but this is this that you don't know nothing about it. That's that other type of work. I ain't gonna get too specific, but you know those type of folks and what they say, fill in the blanks. But the importance of what they were trying to relay was the fact that they had all of those naysayers around them. And the moment that they decided or went through the journey of recognizing why it was important to take that first step in walking by themselves to a community that recognized why their practice of meditation and why and breath work is so important was welcoming that person. And it was astounding because who knew, you know? Who knew that taking this step would lead me to a community that I can recognize to be true? Who knew that even though I was surrounded by people that would say this and that would say that about the things that I wanted to portray, not just my personality, but the things that were important to me, who knew that they would welcome those ideas with open arms, where I experienced people basically just pushing them away. And that's really, you know, a great capture of what I am trying to say in regards to pressure, because it involves all of that, all of those stages, all of those recognitions, all of those decisions, because you have to be the one that is able to say, hey, like, I need to step away. Or, you know what, I'm not afraid to finish this conversation, just not right now in this state. Like, I can come back at a later date and we can, wrap it and hopefully come to an understanding and a resolution that we can move forward with. But at the end of the day, to deal with the pressures that are surrounding, even if you are in a professional environment, you can still apply your boundaries. You can still do so, because you as a person, you as a soul have to still show up in that space and be available. So it's okay to ask for a little bit of time to be able to recollect yourself if you're feeling overwhelming in a way. or overwhelmed in a way in that space. Because, like I said before, one thing that I don't try to do in terms of pressure is allow for it to be too overwhelming or too overwhelm me, because there are times when I've had to dive in like uncontrollably, instinctually. I've just gone down the rabbit hole and everything else, and it happens. And honestly, I can talk about it, but it's not just my own conversation to have. Um, and what I mean by that is when you have those experiences, it's there for you to learn something. And who you have those experiences with have to take away something for themselves as well. And in, dealing with the pressures of life, you have to be able to not necessarily always physically step away, but mentally be able to take a moment and say, okay, let me remember to do at least that. Breathe, so that I can pace what I have and articulate what it is that I perceive to be true for myself in regards to things like life. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Honestly, I'm about to go do some research myself from the conversation that we had and things that we talked about off camera, but I just wanted to say that that was a great conversation. And I am so grateful for the time that I have with all of my guests that join me, because it don't matter about the technical difficulties for me. It matters about the time and the intentionality and the fact that they came out to speak with me is something that I truly value, and I want to honor them with making sure next time they come onto the show, it is on record because, like I said, that conversation is going to be powerful, and all the conversations that I have, I know are going to be intentional. So I just thank you, and I am grateful. But I have to go, and so do you. So I see y'all later. And I see y'all for the next episode. We out of here. Peace.